Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, all about painting and decorating. Today is a very important video about interior design tips and tricks, mainly about lighting and how crucial it is to creating a stylish space. It's really important to leverage the power of light in your home or whatever space you're trying to style or design. I have 4 mega important aspects of lighting to talk about today, and no offense, I'm pretty sure most of you haven't even considered the 4th one. I'm not giving you guys enough credit, you probably already know. Now, the right lighting can make a room feel cozy, modern, or luxurious, or if you do it wrong, it could just look like a cave. It can really help set the mood and draw attention to the best design elements in your home. In this video, we're going to explore 4 elements of lighting that I like to talk about: fixtures, temperature, bulbs, and shadows. Now, because we're the paint people, we often talk about paint colors. But honestly, in my experience, lighting is one of the most important yet often overlooked aspects of interior design. Lighting is key to achieving your desired look and feel. So let's get into the first aspect, which is fixtures. These are the things that the light goes into for the most part. So we're talking about table lamps, floor lamps, chandeliers, overhead lighting, all that. The physical items you buy to put your bulbs in. We not only have to think about the light that these fixtures are emitting, but also the pieces themselves. This is a really good chance for you to grab some awesome looking light fixtures that can act as design elements rather than just a tool to emit light from. So all these fun fixtures, floor lamps that you might come across, you want to make sure that they look attractive when the lights are turned on and when they're turned off. You can have some accent lights that really match the design of your whole home, and you could actually appreciate them for what they are, but you can also get some lights that are way more minimal and are meant to sort of blend into the background. I see a lot of these LED tube lights that are just basically a big stick that just shines light into corners of rooms usually. That's cool too. That's a nice fixture, but that's more so about the light rather than the fixture itself. It just gives you a chance to have some fun and explore some really fun options. So don't settle for the builder's chandeliers that you got that really don't do anything for you. Have fun with it. Pick some nice fixtures, have some nice accent lights that really add to your whole space. Now, the fixtures aren't the only fun element of an entire lighting setup. Number 2 is the light bulbs themselves. They are pretty important because you can't really have a light fixture without a light bulb of some sort to make it work. And gone are the days of just grabbing a light bulb from your hardware store and popping it in and you're done. There are so many options now. And we've kind of discovered that with our home, really experimenting with different shapes, sizes, even patterns within the light bulb. So not only can you get light bulbs with different colored glass, but also the filament shape can really add something. Those Edison bulbs that look really old school, but are a lot more efficient than a really, really old light bulb from Edison's time. Even the light bulbs we've used in the basement are actually really interesting shapes. They're very long tubular bulbs, which gives you this visual line to follow when you look down the basement of just these little lines of light coming down. And of course, we have a floor lamp that used to have a nice lamp shade over it, but instead of finding a replacement when it broke while we were moving, we just ended up going with a really fun large light bulb to showcase. So not only is that emitting light, but it's also a fun little accent we can show off too. Our most recent exciting bulb purchase were these little bulbs that had fairy lights built into them. So the glass is just there to house this line of string lights that create this really interesting effect when they're turned on. They don't have the highest amount of output, they're not the brightest lights, but in terms of just background lighting, atmospheric lighting, vibes lighting, I think it was really, really cool. So keep an eye out for those interesting bulbs that exist on places like Amazon or IKEA has a ton. You don't have to go with just your old school, good old bulb. The next thing I want to talk about is color temperature. And this is directly tied into light bulbs because we're talking about the kind of light that is being produced. And we know this based on what's called the Kelvin scale. And this refers to the color temperature of lighting and how it's measured in degrees or Kelvin. Essentially, the lower the Kelvin value is on any light source really, the warmer and more yellow or even amber the light will be. And as that temperature increases, as you go from 3 to 4, all the way up to 6, 7, 8,000 Kelvin, the lighter and brighter and cooler the lighting will be. So the cool part is you can utilize different color temperatures to achieve different vibes. So as an example, if you pick up a box of light bulbs and it says 2700 K on it, Kelvin, let's say, this is going to be warm lighting, which is very warm and cozy, ideal for living rooms and bedrooms. They produce this cozy glow. It's kind of like your smartphone if it goes to night mode, everything gets a bit more orangey as opposed to bright and blue. 3500 Kelvin is a little more neutral. It's a little more in the middle, perfect for classrooms, kitchens, offices, somewhere you want nice kind of soft light, but not necessarily anything too cool and bright. Once you get to 5000 Kelvin, that is going to be bright, cool white, a bit similar to daylight, which is great again for offices, places like hospitals, maybe even your garage, let's say, and you want something nice and bright. But you can get even brighter with 6500 Kelvin light lighting, and that's pure daylight. Very cool, very bright. Does a great job at mimicking what actual sunlight looks like. And this is the kind of lighting you might see in places like commercial spaces where you need as much light as possible. And that's another thing too with most light bulbs. Usually when we're talking about those lighter, brighter, higher Kelvin values, you're going to get more output, chances are, which means they're going to be brighter, or at least brighter feeling. As much as I love my cozy, incandescent, warm lighting in my hallways, I do realize that it's not going to be as bright as a whiter light, but I've accepted that. You just have to figure out what you're valuing more, that cozy, warm vibe or a bright area, a light, bright output. Do you want your space to feel a little more atmospheric and maybe like a fancy restaurant? Or do you want it to be really bright, fluorescent, kind of like a shopping mall or something? And just to touch on one last point here, with modern LED technology, you can get warm lights that are also really bright, and vice versa. You can get that cool, super daylight lighting, but also have it be dimmable and more mellowed out. Just make sure you're reading the box, figuring out the Kelvin value and also the lumens and how much light it's actually putting out to serve your needs. For me, I've opted for light bulbs that are a bit brighter in areas like the kitchen and some of the hallways, because when I'm cooking, I really need good lighting to make sure I'm, not chopping my finger off. But then in areas like bedrooms and the family room, I went with these more gold lights where they look incandescent, they look like old school bulbs, but really they're high efficiency LED light bulbs. They just have an orange amber glow to them that makes them feel really nice and cozy and comforting to me. Now this fourth element of lighting is a biggie, and this is one that not a lot of people think of, and an example of it's actually right behind me. Let me just crouch down for a bit. You see that? See that light sort of peering in? Yes, that's window light, but more importantly, I want to focus on the areas around it. I'm of course talking about shadows, that negative space, the areas that aren't being directly lit. There's a lot of really cool things you can do with shadow, whether it's light coming in naturally from cutouts or sort of recessed sort of panels, or opting for something like blinds rather than curtains. So you allow some of the light to come in naturally, but what happens is the blinds sort of cut it up into these really cool segments. By cutting the light up and using shadows, it adds some visual texture to your space without actually having to put anything on your walls. It's just the light that does it naturally. And it also changes throughout the day, which is another fun feature. You can even buy light fixtures that cast really cool shadows when they're illuminated. And I in fact got 2 of them upstairs in the kitchen that I want to show you right now. So these are the chandeliers I was talking about. And as you can see, they look really interesting. But a side benefit that I wasn't even aware of is how cool they look when they're turned on and everything else is a bit more dimly lit. You can really see these awesome shadows that are being cast onto the ceiling. It almost looks like we put wallpaper on our ceiling, which is really, really fun. It also helps that a lot of the features we have and the furnishings have these geometric lines like this mirror right over here. It just all really fits together really, really nicely. It was kind of a fluke, but what a fun fluke it was. Check out this video for more interior design and decorating inspiration. Be inspired.